On 3rd of July, we were in the High Court at Kisii in a matter where I have sued the Inspector General of Police and the chain of command up to the OCPD Mosocho and the OCPD Nyanchwa Police Station and also the OCS Mosocho. So, in that matter, on 3rd of July this year, a consent was entered in between the government and myself before the open court that I come here within 14 days and record my statement. Today is, I think, the 10th day or the 11th day, depending on how you count. And so I came very early in the morning. I got here on time. But I've been here for hours, and now it's around, since it's running to around 3 o'clock, and I've not been served. I'm being told nothing. Mr. Dennis Wabwire, the State Council, has intervened with the OCPD, with the OCS. They're just playing ping pong. The OCS claims he has gone to watch sports. He can't come. So as you can see, the changes we are trying to get in this country are not there. Court orders are being disobeyed by even whoever thinks has got power in this country. And so I'm totally disgusted by what has happened here. But I'm not giving up. I come here to record my statement against the threats the president gave in Mosocho when he did at Kanolotunga Mosocho during a Thanksgiving prayer service last year, in which he threatened to cut people up using that sword. And it was not an empty threat. You saw the mayhem that happened in Nairobi and other parts of the country when people were trying to demonstrate. Hundreds have been killed. Bodies are being discovered, still being discovered. And so I'm personally determined to ensure that justice is done and that threat sees the light of day and is extinguished by the law enforcement in this country. So it's very unfortunate that the police have chickened out, they have run away, they are unable to take my statement. So even with the intervention of the State Council, Mr. Dennis Wabwire is trying to prevail upon them that please get this matter, this is a court order, that you register Mr. Omtatah's statement. Still, they have not done it. So I think we'll have to go back for contempt of court against these officers. And I think the least I will look for is their dismissal from the service. We're not going to have officers who wear a school uniform with the crown, with the emblem, the national emblem, the coat of arms on their bodies, on their clothing, who disobey court orders. So I think as I pursue the president, I'm also going to pursue these individual officers to bring them to book. And so that is where the position is. And I think it's a very unfortunate day for Kenya. And I think even the cosmetic changes the president has been doing I'm not going in deep. Nyani ni wale tu. No, nothing new. So that's my statement to the press.
Assure you that you will get justice, especially.
No, justice will be done. I'm very sure that justice will be done because, first of all, Kenya is a republic, which means it's a government, the government of law. In our own national anthem, every day we recite that justice be our shield and defender. Justice will be done. Once the law says this is the position, nothing is impossible to get that position. It may only take a bit longer, but if you are determined, you will get that position. So these guys will have to face the music. I'm not going to take this lying down. I don't take prisoners. I just uphold the law. And I don't think the law will sympathize with them.
A cosmetic, the dissolving of the cabinet, I feel like he hasn't done much.
I think the dissolving of the cabinet was a survival. That very sword the president was swearing that he was going to use to chop people, he should have fallen on that sword and died with his government. that sword does not just cut one way, it cuts both ways. So if he's unable to balance a budget, if he has to mortgage the country to keep governing, he has no business being in power. And as I said in Parliament, the very sword he raised up in Kasarani, time for him to fall on it and die. That's the only honor he can have, to sack himself and get out of office. Let him resign. Let him sack himself. He has sacked the cabinet. Now is the time for him to sack himself, and he goes away. We are waiting for him to sack himself. These other things that are coming up, that dialogue, whatever, these vultures, the same old vultures that have denied this country a chance to move forward, are circling for the thing they are going to feed on the blood of the children who are cut down on the streets of Nairobi and dance on their graves. The time when that used to happen, I think, is behind us. That blood cries for vengeance, and those responsible must get out of public office. And those yearning to get into public office because children have been killed on our streets are in for a rude shock. The days when Raila could play games with us are over. We are not going to allow this thing that he is trying to do again. He wants to feed on the blood of the children of this country. He did his part, but it does not have to be that he only fights when he's out of government and he becomes part of every other government. He extended Moi's stay in power. He extended Kibaki's stay in power. He extended Uhuru's stay in power. Now he wants to extend Ruto's stay in power against the wishes of Kenyans. We have to call him out. He's just a mortal like all of us. We have given him respect, but we don't fear him. So I don't see why he's salivating to get into a government that is responsible for the destruction of this country, a government that has mortgaged this country. So he can go ahead, it's his choice, he can go ahead, but he'll go alone. I think there's a generation in this town which says that this country must be governed by law, and those who break the law should be punished. Even our own constitution, if you go to Article 143 of the Constitution, on the immunity of the president is not immune from crimes against humanity. The genocidal actions him and his cabinet have been carrying out in this country by destroying lives and livelihoods are issues he can be held accountable even under Kenyan law, even when he's still in office. And we are exploring chances of suing him in our Kenyan courts to test that Article 143. So those who are running around thinking that an opportunity has presented itself, that they want to get into government, they will get into government against the wishes of Kenyans. The wish of Kenyans up now is a new start. We get an election for the president, and we carry out a clean election, not an election that is delivered by the courts. A clean election that terminates at the constituency as ordained by the Constitution, and not one that goes to Bomas. Under our Constitution, we are not supposed to have an election in Bomas. Anybody who cares to read can go and read Article 138, Clause 2 of the Constitution, together with Article 86, B, C, and D. And you realize that an election for president is supposed to take place in the constituency, in each of the constituencies. We get 290 results. That's what we shall tabulate for other requirements to win an election. And at the constituency, an election at the polling station is presided over by a presiding officer, and the constituency level is presided over by a returning officer. When Parliament came up with the nonsense of saying that the chair of the IBC is the returning officer for the president, they violated the Constitution. There's no election to take place nationally for the president. The election takes place at the county. We only aggregate the results from the constituencies, 290 constituencies. So I think that the time has come for us to go back and be true to and faithful to the Constitution. We implement the Constitution. Things like NADCO, all this nonsense these people come up with to try and give them their power of relevance against what the Constitution ordains, must be rejected, must be resisted, and must be defeated. And we are going to fight and defeat these characters.
Seems to be angling for government.
Yeah, he's angling for his own stomach. Mr. Raila is just angling for his own stomach. He's not angling for anybody's stomach. He has not even demanded justice for the kids who died. How can he be rushing to go into government when kids have died, even some we don't know where they are, people have been abducted, we don't know where they are. Before going to negotiate with a criminal, why would he demand that the criminal comes clean on what has happened to this country? Huh? This kind of grade political prostitution is not acceptable. He can do the prostitution with the old order, but I think the new order which is exposed, cannot allow political prostitutes. And unfortunately, Baba has turned out to be a political prostitute who cannot resist the temptation to go into bed with any offer that is there by an illegitimate government.
Is ISIS an alternative for the slaughter?
Pardon?
Is ISIS an alternative?
What's ISIS?
International
ICC?
Yeah.
I don't know the ICC, but I think we have got a proper legal framework that should be able to handle these issues. And I think I've seen the Kenyan street rise up with the one voice, led by the Gen Zs, but there are very many people. I saw people even who are older than me who are on the streets. It was a national uprising saying that this country must be redeemed, this country must be brought back. And it's very unfortunate I've had to use the words I've used against Raila, because his history, he had done a lot of work for this country, but you cannot sacrifice that work just on the altar of greed. It looks like whatever he has done for this country was doing it because he was out of the eating circles. It now looks like a situation whereby you have a prison. People are fighting to be over wardens who are fighting over who will be the chief warden. Then they realize that there's a prison break. So they say, hey, stop this war. Let us regroup and go and make sure that the prison is contained, that the prison break is contained. Then you continue being relevant. The children who are killed were simply demanding for emancipation. Tell me, why was that boy who said, Mr. Speaker, sir, why was he shot dead? Why was he shot dead? What threat did he pose? And where was he? Was he not in the parliament of the people? Was he not in where he was supposed to be? Where his representatives are? So what has happened in this country is really, really, really painful and disgusting. And even when you hear people saying that they want to share positions and not to address and demand justice for these kids and ensure that their killers are brought to book, and to ensure that Kenya is run as a republic, not some kiosk or some serfdom that is whereby you have got serfs and you have got lords who can just lord it over everybody. It's very, very sad for us.
Yesterday we saw
I think he's going, but this man Mtiambai is a man who was used by Ruto to dismantle what you call this police unit called the Internal Affairs Unit, which. No, I'm saying Koome. Sorry, I still remember Mtiambai. I saw Koome because no Koome was so inconsequential that we still remember Mtiambai. So this guy called Koome is the guy who was, when he got into office, he began transferring investigators out of the Internal Affairs Unit. He denied it funds. He reduced it into a shell, and this is a unit that Kenyans had invested in heavily to make sure that the police have an ability within themselves to investigate and bring to book those people who commit crimes within the police force. Right now, as we sit, IPOA cannot be relied on. IPOA has got no capacity to investigate the police. IPOA is just civilians like me. They don't know anything about police orders and structures and what have you. So Mtiambai takes ultimate command responsibility, but he did not tell us who brought in those people in civilian who were shooting these kids and killing them. So my position is that President Ruto should do the honorable thing by sacking himself, but those who want to use a more polite word, resigning and vacating office. So let him just follow on that sword that he threatened to use to chop up Kenyans. The time for it to chop him has come. Let him follow on that sword and clear the way for more able people to come over and run this country accordingly.